that? Oh, yeah. Electrical fire. 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, November, she said. Yeah.
Oh,
Get rid of
don't get me started.
Put it here.
Oh, jeez.
That's 65.
No, I gotta get a pen.
Put it in yellow.
I got a pen.
Troy has my pen. Okay, we still got a whole minute. That's good.
Oh, yeah, I'll leave it.
Okay. Todd Olson. Good. Public comment time.
I had shoulder surgery.
Okay, we're good.
That's fun to see those kids kind of fly off and all roll in the grass.
You know, it was such a nice day.
I tried to skip it.
Turn my phone off.
Yeah, and then take one of the last.
I want my phone to go. There's my glasses. Okay. 50 seconds.
And it was growing. Yeah, so. It used to be regular.
Everybody's here. Good. And all our staff's here. Good. 30 seconds. Kind of cold out there, huh?
Thank you.
Maybe if I could borrow a pair of glasses from
Oh, it's a super.
Brenda, I could look at it.
Oh, yeah, this is the stuff.
I put my glass case in my briefcase, but I didn't put my glasses in the...
I got an extra pair if you need a pair.
Hey, you know,
Look at this doctor thing. We have the first doctor and the first hospital.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the City Sedro-Woolley Council Meeting. Please rise for our flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you got enough money, I can't find my pen either.
You can't. Oh, that was joking.
What's that Boy Scout troop number? I don't know.
See, you're an hour.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody, especially our guests for the Boy Scout troop. Was it 79? 70. I'm sorry, I can't see that far. So good that you're here. Okay, council knows the drill. If there's something on the consent calendar that you'd like to discuss further, let me know. If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve it.
yeah, Mayor, I'd like to pull the Tegris agreement.
Okay. So the Tegris off. So
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, approving A through C and pulling out Tegris agreement for discussion.
okay, we got a. Do I have a second? Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Galbraith, second by Councilmember Wagner to approve the consent calendar A through C and pulling out the Tegris agreement. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, now we are on item D, the Tegris agreement, and I assume that would be. What do you have that you want to discuss?
I've read through it. I have no idea what it is.
Okay.
I don't know if it's an existing thing. It doesn't explain to somebody that's not involved with it. I don't know what the heck it is.
Okay. Chief.
Okay, the Tegris is a tracking tool to track all the systems that are out there for us in the city, like the sprinkler alarm systems, for the confidence test reports, the alarm systems, the hood systems. So when a company like Alpine, say, goes out and does an inspection on a hood, they take their tablet and they automatically enter in the data in their tablet, and then they print, and it sends it automatically to Tegris. And for us, they have to write it all out on paper, mail it to me, and then I have to type it all, the data, into our computers. So obviously, it's a big time saver for them and for us. As is, I have a stack of confidence test reports that haven't even been put in yet. And it's not something like new to the county. The Mount Vernon Fire has been using it for about a year. Anacortes has been using it for about a year and a half. Burlington uses it also. And I don't know how long they've been using the program. And then the county fire marshal told me they'll be signing on this year also with the use of it.
So is this the first time you're doing it?
This is the first time, and it's, of course, no charge to the city at all. So,
At all, or just at this time?
at all at this time. So what happens is Tigres gets the money from Alpine or whoever. They're charged money.
So basically, you have somebody like Alpine's doing the inspections the fire department used to do.
No, the confidence test reports, alarms, and sprinklers are always done by those certain companies. We go out and make sure and enforce that the confidence test reports, that the testing is done. We don't do the tests ourselves. No, I don't know of a department out there that does. So.
Well, at least it gives me an idea what it is now. But
Yeah.
before, I'm of at least average intelligence, and I couldn't figure it out.
Okay, I apologize if the notice wasn't
Well, I got nothing against it.
memorandum. Okay, thank you. Any other questions on it? Or?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve item D of the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Wagner, a second by Councilmember Lemley to approve the city contract with Tigres at no charge, item D on the consent calendar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passes. Good. Now we go to public comment. This is something that you'd want to... Oh, sorry, excuse me. Get to see the good, it's the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival presentation. And this looks like a good one.
Hi, my name is Tina Puller, and I'm on the executive board with the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival. I want to thank you all for allowing us this time and your continued support. And I present Cindy Birch.
Before I show you the real deal, I have brochures for the 2015 festival, and I'll just start some with the City Council. We've got more. So anybody that wants to start a whole case. We're very proud of the fact that we get to represent all of Skagit County. We have something in every one of our cities in Skagit County that happens during the festival. In Sedro-Woolley, that is the Wood Fest, and this year it won't be the first weekend because they decided that they really didn't want to compete with Easter. And so it's the second weekend this year. Normally it is the very first weekend of the festival, one of our opening events. And lots of folks journey up and they enjoy the woodworking and the wood carving that's put on. And with that, I have a 2015 poster to present to the city of Sedro-Woolley.
It's very, very beautiful.
There it is.
Oh, nice.
And as the mayor already commented, you've seen that sky recently.
A couple nights ago.
And the artist is a woman by the name of Teresa Saya. And Teresa got her start with the Art in the Pickle Barn art show. And today, she actually goes over to Italy and teaches painting, goes down to New Mexico, and her studio's moved up a little bit from Skagit County. She's in Pioneer Square in downtown Seattle. So she has beautiful, beautiful work that she does. And later on in February, you'll be able to see the framed original in our office. So please do stop by and see it. It's really pretty. It makes the print just not look very much at all.
Put it right in front
Great.
here.
I'm going to take a picture.
Yeah.
We'll put it on Facebook. Here. There we go. And I'll leave the corners on so it's protected. Graduating in 80.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Now we'll go to public comment. And this is something that's not on the agenda. And state your name and address for the record. And limit your time to 3 to 5 minutes. Dennis. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Hi, I'm Dennis O'Neill. I reside at 109 Talcott Street. That's really nice. That's pretty. So, a housekeeping item, I guess. Over by where I live, over on Talcott Street and Woolley, over by the high school there, they have a cyclone fence around their soccer field. They just put it in the last couple of years. Well, there's been some kids or something in four-wheel drives or just vehicles just driving along that fence where there's no road. It's between the old, what do they call that yellow bloom that comes up that's... Yeah, there's a cyclone fence here and the Scottish bloom here, and there's a really nice area for people to drive. It's not really a dedicated road. It's private property. And there's been more and more people driving and starting to make tracks, turn into a road. And it's getting really, I walk my dog down there just about every day, and it's always been a little bit that way, but more people are doing it now because nobody says no, and they can get in and out of there without running into anything that's in their way. And most of them probably are high school kids or kids just out of high school. And I walked down it today, and I noticed that on the south end of that, where we used to have it all fenced, people were going back and dumping all that garbage. And I think the city went back there and cleared all that out. You can't do that anymore, but they got those big concrete blocks that have to be moved by an excavator or something. They're real heavy. They got hooks in them.
Ecology blocks.
What are they called?
Ecology blocks. I don't know why they call them ecology blocks, but they do.
Nobody's going to argue with the
big concrete blocks.
Yeah, big suckers. But I was wondering if it would be possible. I know that's probably not city property, but if somebody went over there with something that could lift those and block off that access on that road over there, because it's going to get worse. It's going to turn it in just to a mud pit, and it looks unsightly. It's right off from our high school over there in that field.
So some people are going over there rooting?
It's in that where a tree source is too. I've seen cars going around and tree source.
And also,
Is there
you see they moved that giant boulder?
What?
You see they moved that giant boulder so they can drive right into the high school parking lot now?
Oh, yeah. That was a couple of years ago. But this, I mean, the high school, I mean, it's something that's been sort of, people don't realize unless they're walking over there, I think, to be fair. But it's going to look really ugly over there if people keep doing it. And there's a railroad track, the old railroad track's here, the Scottish bloom is here, and the pathway is perfect for, they pretty unrestricted. You just shoot right on down there and right next to the fence. Sooner or later, somebody's going to hit the fence, tear part of the fence out. And the solution's so easy, and the blocks are right there, right on the very south. It just take one piece of heavy equipment over there, lift them up, set them over, and block it off well so they can't go halfway in and cut across and things.
Why that boulder?
They drug it with their four-wheel drive trucks, and then they're driving up on the rocks and taking pictures now.
Yeah.
Really?
I saw a kid doing that one day. It was totally, I thought it was pretty cool. It'd be something I'd be doing,
Sounds fun.
But it's a good solution, I think, and it doesn't cost much to move those blocks over there and take care of it before it gets bad, because it is a nice walking area. And the other thing I wasn't going to mention, because it's something I can always call Aaron about, but over at the Riverfront Park, you have that just area there where the bands get up and play during car show and everywhere. Well, you got a ladder leaning up against the back of that to go up and turn the switches at the top or something, the lights. It just like the perfect thing for a kid to go up, playing around and fall off and see the city.
Ken probably inadvertently left it there at some point.
6 months.
Probably not there.
Oh, really?
6
It's not
months.
supposed to be there.
Oh, okay, well, we'll talk to Nate.
It's funny it hasn't been stolen, and it eventually will if somebody doesn't fall off it in the first place. But I felt bad because,
by my house, it would be.
Pardon?
If it was by my house, it would be stolen.
Louder. Maybe you'd take it, too. Maybe you need a good ladder. It looks like a good ladder.
Well, Dennis,
I always like ladders, all right.
since we have you here, how's the garbage?
It's a 40-footer?
It seems to be doing pretty good. The garbage, she's asked me about the garbage. It looks like they're doing a pretty good job, the city, but my concern is going to be for 2 weeks, some of that garbage is going to really make a stink. It's right now we're probably, it's so cool out now we aren't noticing it too much, but 2 weeks and some of that garbage with food in it and things like that, which is going to be a big share of it, it's going to be a hassle. It's going to really reek, especially the people with the bigger garbage cans that took care of the immediate problem, just quantity, but it's going to get down to, it's going to be pretty ripe.
Kids with
But you're making it the 2 weeks so far?
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't matter. I just go.
Yeah, mine did too. I got a bigger can.
My rate went down because I maintain the same size can. So.
Well, for a couple bucks more to buy another can is probably the way I do it. If I need one, I won't even hassle with it.
Well, you get 2 for free, or the second one free.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just to be clear, the second can is the same price as it would have been to have one can every week. It's 2 cans every other week, minus the fuel surcharge. So if you have the exact same volume capacity, you do pay less.
Well, that's because fuel's down so low.
Well, no, your fuel surcharge is 50% anyway because you drive half as often. So,
but we're also down now too.
Yeah, no, it's a twofer. It's a twofer savings. So.
I am a little worried about, like in the summertime when you have fish and stuff.
And the flies.
That's the only thing.
Aaron, you've explained that to me 3 different times about how it works, and every time I'm just thinking, that sounds like attorney's legalese. I can't follow that.
I finally printed out a copy and mailed it to somebody because there was a letter to the editor that they also sent to me saying it's a double charge, and I finally just cut and pasted the rates, and they tried to explain it again, and the fellow actually wrote back and said, I get it now.
You sent me a copy of that,
maybe
too.
You have to see the rates in writing to understand.
He gave it to me, and I still don't understand it.
Well, you got it, right? I gave it to you, and
I got it now.
Your wife got it. And
anyway, if you can do something about that trail before it turns into a real driveway.
Do you think that's Burlington Northern Santa Fe property that you're talking about? Is it the...
But the thing is, it's right next to that, there's a good reason to do something about it, because it's right next to that cyclone fence, and somebody's going to slide over and hit that and wipe that
Behind
fence
Woods
out.
Logging, isn't it? It's south of Woods.
South of Woods, yeah.
It's Jameson.
But it's still, it's only about 10 feet away from the old railroad track.
Oh, it's by Wally, right?
Behind it.
Yeah, so it's Wally and Nelson. Wally and Nelson.
The kids are using
That's
Nelson over to
That's where it starts.
Yeah.
And then it goes south, runs south along that cyclone fence where the soccer field is now.
Past the tennis courts to Jameson. Using it as a shortcut.
Okay.
And if they don't block it pretty well, because there is a crossing about halfway down where you can actually cross the railroad track and be in that other section over there.
Dennis's house.
Yeah, although you have to be careful. We did have a squad car try to do that, and it resulted in repacking airbags because you hit the railroad track and it stops rather rapidly.
Well, I know it's going to take at least 5 of those big suckers in there to stop where they're running back there with it, but just stopping something before it gets bad. And I can't see anybody who would complain about it, because I'm sure it bothers quite a few people in that area to see that. Anybody that's walking back there, it's a really nice place to take your dog or just go for a walk, and they're just going to turn it into a mud bath back there. It's going to look a real unsightly, and if they hit the fence, then it's another cost. And in the meantime, I can see when the season starts up, people will be parking back there to watch the soccer games too. it's not so bad. They park on the north end of that fence, but on which would be the west end of the field is where that road is. Anyway, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Dennis.
Anyone else? Okay,
Thanks, Dennis.
We'll close the public comment and we'll go to item 6, and this is a second reading. Unfinished business, Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife Land Use Agreement. Aaron.
So at the last council meeting, we went over the land use agreement that the city has with Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, WDFW, from 1990. It's a 25-year agreement that automatically renews for an additional 25 years this spring. And more for the public's benefit, the reason this came to you is because of the difficulties the city is having maintaining the state's toilet down at the boat launch. We have a secondary issue, which is at some point there will need to be some in-water work, or at least adjacent to the river work, on the boat launch. And we've been told that requires specially outfitting a machine with I don't know, oil that you can drink and fish oil. I don't know. Tony, I think, understands that. I understand he looked into it for us, but you got to get rid of the real oil and put in river oil, so if it drips, it's good, and a whole bunch of stuff. And we don't really have the capacity or the interest in spending the dollars to do any in-water work, since we, the city, don't actually own any facilities that are in the water. So I brought that issue to you last time, both the maintenance and operation of the toilet, as well as that potential cost on the boat launch. The council asked me to draft a letter to WDFW that would give our notice that we are not automatically renewing, but would also invite WDFW to engage in a conversation about a different kind of partnership. And you can see the draft letter where I put in there that basically says, hey, we're not really good at the toilet because we don't own the right equipment, and we're not capable of doing the in-water work, but we're great at grading, we're great at site security, we're great at dealing with the brush. Maybe we could sit down and talk about an agreement that has us do the things we're good at and lets you guys be responsible for the things we aren't good at. So hopefully a positive tone, inviting them to the table with the idea that it would still remain an area that would be within our control and protection, but maybe they can come to the party and help out with the toilet and the boat launch. So it's here tonight for your review and any comments, and ultimately, if you'd like it to be sent, I'd like a motion authorizing the notice to be sent to WDFW.
It's an integral part, and I enjoy fishing and use that site, but yeah, it can get smelly, but I think we need to do something to keep it functional and operational for tourism effects, if not just for the local community. So yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter off to Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife and work out an option.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Lemley and a second by Councilmember Galbraith to send a letter to the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. That's in our packet. Any further discussion?
Got to keep it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passes. Thank you. Okay, we will go to item 7, Skagit County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. This is a first reading. And John?
Good evening. So over the past year, all of the jurisdictions, including tribal governments in Skagit County, have been working together to update the Skagit County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. Each jurisdiction has a section in this overall large plan. As I noted in here, it's the entire plan is about 792 pages, and so we all worked on our specific sections, and I updated the Sedro-Woolley section. That is included in your memo. The draft is just about complete, pending some typos and that kind of minor stuff. And so now we're at the point of being ready to adopt it. The Skagit County Department of Emergency Management has led this process. They've held several public hearings, both in the evening and the day, to get comments from interested parties. And the purpose of this mitigation planning is to identify policies and actions that can be implemented over long term to reduce risk and future losses. These plans are required by the Federal Emergency Management Agency in order to receive grants in the case of an emergency and a disaster. So the plan is complete, and the Skagit County Department of the Skagit County Department of Emergency Management had asked that the City of Sedro-Woolley pass a resolution adopting the Skagit County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan as the official mitigation plan for the city. As I mentioned, this is an update. The City of Sedro-Woolley has been adopting this plan for since at least 2005. We update it every 5 years or so. And that's about all I have to say.
John, since it's an update, are there any substantive changes that are highlighted that we should know about, or something major that's changed with this document?
Not that I'm aware of. All I did is update the facts and figures for the City of Sedro-Woolley, the housing, the amount of housing, the susceptible areas to flooding, that kind of stuff. Updated they wanted to, as FEMA wants to know what the city does for floodway management. We have a flood-prone areas section of the code that addresses that. That hasn't changed since the 80s, I think, and just put that in there. And as far as the policies of the larger document, I'm not aware of anything that's changed.
Okay, so I'd like to see this come back as a consent item probably next time.
I have a question about the early warning system, will it include cell phones, I guess, that the Skagit County has to contact?
They actually already have that system. You can sign up for it if you go on to the dispatch website, and you can request notifications, and they push out text and just text and email. Yeah, they can call too with the reverse 911. So they've got a couple different systems already in place.
So it just goes to the Skagit County website, and it would be
I think it's actually at Skagit. I think it's at Skagit 911.
It's a 911.
Yeah, I think you go to Skagit 911, and then you can sign yourself up by both your residence address as well as you can select the geographic areas where you want messages, because you may have a child who goes to school in Mount Vernon, you live in Sedro-Woolley, and you work in Anacortes. So you could hit all three areas and receive messages.
I think they used to once, at least that I know of, near the oil refineries or something happened.
Well, the oil refinery was the one that helped pay for most of this system, and the name of the system's escaping me at the moment. But they actually they have it. I guess that's the point.
I tried to get 911 to do it when they were passing that all those bad checks or scam. People were calling up, and they were blanketing Sedro-Woolley at the time, and they didn't think it was such a thing to do, to warn everybody, hey, this is a scam, don't, because we were getting blitzed by, they were calling everybody up and trying to talk them into getting money or whatever. And I know it hit Mount Vernon too. Mount Vernon got at the same time, but it has to be something really like a big flood or something. They're not just going to do it. I don't know.
I had just two small questions on the mitigation projects in the back of this. One is the Riverfront Park landfill site. It says we're responsible to excavate the materials of the old dump. Is that really an expectation on the city?
It's Skagit County now.
Page 55.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. It does show Sedro-Woolley Public Works as the responsible entity, but under our new agreement with the county, that should fall under the county's management, or at least cost, all in. one for all for one. That's what they told us.
And secondly, the Brickyard Creek flood storage and fish enhancement, it also puts us on the hook for the responsibility of that project itself?
Yeah, that would be our project.
We took that.
That would be only within the city's limits. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't chase other funding, but it would be a project that would be designed, sponsored, permitted, primarily funded, managed, built by the city.
While we're on the topic of flooding, under your risk estimation chart, which is on page 42, you gave a number value to different things, the area impacted and health and safety. So if Dyke District 12 and Burlington prevail with their plan, will any of those numbers change, do you think? And then how often do we update this if that
We
doesn't
update this every 5 years.
Okay. Because they're showing us getting more water, so I wonder if that would change that risk estimation total score.
Yep.
And like I mentioned earlier, the point of mentioning these things, including the mitigation actions, are if we have it on paper that these are things that are known, then funding becomes available when it's time to address those issues.
So how come we don't have the hospital in for flooding in SR9, SR20? In terms of access to and from the city, I guess I didn't notice that.
I thought that was
under the mitigation. Well,
here it is.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Highway 20, Highway 9, the hospital.
I'm assuming it's a 1 to 5 scale.
And really, we would probably want...
Right now, like the area impacted is 1.
Well, right at the end it says critical facilities should be afforded additional flood protection due to their nature.
What page?
46 at the last paragraph.
Well, I was looking at the mitigation.
Okay, so we can discuss this.
Mike?
Think about it.
Question though. It gives us a risk estimation score of 153. Where does that fall in classification with other communities and things with that? Are we higher score, lower score, what? Where does that?
I haven't looked at what other jurisdictions are, what their score is.
So we're at moderate high risk. Is that probably what that is, or what?
I haven't compared it to other communities, so I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. Just wonder where we sat by comparison to
Burlington
and Mount Vernon and Conway and all those other guys.
Okay. Frustrating.
Now, I had heard consent, that this would be on consent next time. Is that still the case?
Okay. And if there's something else you want to discuss, you can always get a hold of John during the next couple weeks. Okay, we will go to items 8, jail medical, and this would be Aaron.
So when the city entered into the interlocal agreement with our principal partners for the construction and operation of the new jail facility, we took a bit of a pass on the jail medical question. You may recall at the time that I advocated pretty hard for an all-in approach for jail medical. That is, all costs would be paid out of the jail fund, and those who use would pay through a bed rate. I was not able to carry the day at that time. We ultimately determined we just didn't have enough consensus to get agreement on jail medical, and the clock was ticking in terms of getting that issue resolved so we could get a ballot out and get the funding and get the jail built. Another year's gone by, and what we'd settled with at that point is language that essentially says jail medical will be allocated pursuant to state law or by subsequent agreement. And the state law, of course, changed a few years ago and shuffled a bunch of jail medical costs onto cities. But essentially, anybody that our police officers touch and take to jail is our jail medical risk and cost until such time as they're sentenced. And then after they're sentenced, they become the cost of the county. If they're staying in the county jail. Of course, if they go to prison, then they're a state cost. So we're talking about pre-sentence prisoners, both misdemeanants and felons. The jail agreement has one other component, which is for the county's jail medical costs. They're paid out of the fund. For state patrol, it's paid out of the fund. And for any injuries sustained to prisoners once they're in custody at the jail, those costs are paid out of the fund. So that addressed a specific issue that we'd bumped into a couple times, which is we've come to know as the pugilistic encounter. It's about $10,000. It's one misdemeanant punches another misdemeanant, and both have to get x-rays and specialists to look at their hand and face. So a $10,000 cost. If they were out of jail, they'd each get a bag of ice and fight the same the next day. But in jail, they have a constitutional right to treatment. So we pay for it, and we pay a lot. That's now covered as a fund cost, so be built into bed rates. So the long-standing practice of allocating jail medical is when somebody's in on multiple holds is really what's brought us to the table most recently. And the scenario is this: somebody goes into, I don't know, name your retail store in Burlington, Sears, and even though it's half off of half off, they still steal it instead of buy it. Burlington PD catches them. It's a theft third charge. It's a low-level misdemeanor offense. And with our jail overcrowding issues, there's no scenario where they go to jail. But they are charged and they don't come to court. So the judge issues a warrant for failure to appear. They now have a warrant in the system. And, should an officer find them, the correct thing to do is to arrest them and take them to jail, and then they can be brought before the judge. That doesn't happen in Skagit County right now because we don't have capacity. But that same bad guy decides to go out and knife somebody, and they do it out in the county. So the county arrests them for a serious felony charge, and it's a dangerous charge, so they're going to go to jail. Even on a pre-sentence basis, bail's high enough they're going to be there. So boom, they get booked into jail on the knifing, and lo and behold, they have, fake seizures or real seizures. Doesn't matter. That's about a $10,000 cost as well. Zip up to the hospital, spend some time with the diagnostic equipment, and the practice then would be, even though they're only in jail because of the felony charge, they're actually serving time on a pre-sentence basis, and they're being held on both charges. Burlington gets hit with a $5,000 bill because of that theft third charge, and the other party, the county in this scenario, gets their half paid through the jail fund. So I think this actually happened, and Burlington said, well, this doesn't seem fair. I mean, we don't want to pay our half because our guy never would have gone to jail. And so they started reading the agreement, and the agreement says allocated per state law or subsequent agreement. State law doesn't really say if you're in on multiple holds how you allocate. That's a past practice. It's one that I feel like we all agreed to in the process, which is to continue the way we'd been doing it. But they expressed some real concerns. I think they're reasonable concerns, and the upshot is the parties, the principal parties to the jail, so the 5 parties that are actually funding the construction of the jail and committed for the next 30 years, have agreed to meet and talk about other options for dealing with jail medical. And what you see in your packet are the current practice scenarios as well as proposals from Mount Vernon, Burlington, and Skagit County. Sedro-Woolley did not make a proposal. As I mentioned at the outset, I advocated for an all-in approach, and you can see really all of these have some all-in approach type option. So the question for you tonight is, when we go to negotiate this, it will require agreement of all 5 parties, that is, all 4 city councils plus the county commissioners. But do you have any particular interests that you want me to be looking out for, other than those that I looked out for last time, and the common sense interests, that make sense to Sedro-Woolley?
So when's this negotiation going to happen?
We're meeting tomorrow.
9 o'clock.
I was going to say, because I didn't see any options in there that impressed me at all. It's one of those things that you need to put thought into, and last minute stuff end up right where you're at now, because like Burlington sat down and read the agreement from last time, didn't like it, so everything gets hurried up, you end up in the same spot.
Well, the meeting tomorrow I don't expect will be the beginning and the end. When the sheriff established the meeting, we all agreed to the date. The deadline for proposals was last Thursday, I think, with the meeting tomorrow. So it was basically got proposals for about a week. And it just so happened in our case that there was a very handy city council meeting right in there. So I took advantage of that opportunity to see if you had any particular interests.
Like I said, the way I read the proposals, I don't see anything in there that catches my eye as worthwhile. Of course, after I read it 3 or 4 more times, you never know. But
yeah, well, I mean, the big question is, the status quo scenario is that we're on the hook for the big one. So we may have 5 years in a row where we've got fairly low-level medical costs, and then we get the bummer of a deal, and we're hit with a $35,000 plus a $50,000 and a couple 25s all in 1 year. Triple our annual budget and no way to pay for it. So that's the current model, is whatever they catch, however that shakes out, we pay for in that year with no predictability. The all-in approach, I believe, probably would cost us more, but it deletes the downside risk or the big upside spike. So it levels it out, because we're all pooling that risk. And if we happen to get a big one, everybody's sharing in that cost. It also has a pretty significant advantage from my perspective in that it aligns all of our interests. So right now, the county's in on the fund, we're out. If we're all in and we're all paying some sort of a fee structure to accommodate being all in, I think we might get more creative on provisioning medical services inside the new jail. And personally, I've got a real interest in seeing, we're looking at a 400-bed facility expandable to 800 beds. I'd like to see fit for jails performed at the jail. I don't want to go to the hospital and pay, and I don't like the scenario where a fit for jail turns into a diagnostic adventure and the uncertainty that comes from it. There are also a lot of procedures that could happen at the jail, and I know they're looking at radiography, for example. It's a big cost for us, security-wise, transportation-wise. If they could do that hand x-ray I talked about in-house, I bet you're into the hundreds of dollars versus the thousands of dollars. So, there are things like that where how you pay for it and who's in and who's out make a big difference. And then how you share the cost. You could see Mount Vernon's proposal was very complex. It was really, but the issue they're trying to get at is, well, we don't really want to pay for somebody who's in jail and sick if we haven't had a chance to go before a judge and get them bumped out on their own recognizance, which is incidentally the standard MO for somebody who's in jail, sick, but not dangerous. We'll go in and say, look, Your Honor, this person's got a medical issue. We want them PR'd. They can go to the hospital. Now it's hospital's cost all by themselves, get fixed up, and then boom, they go back to jail. So that's the other piece of this, is really the hospitals need to come to the table, because the day before they're under arrest and the day they're out of custody, the hospital sucks it up 100% under their uncompensated care mandate. But as soon as we put our hands on it, boom, the city pays. And there really ought to be a way to kind of even some of that out too.
Can we go over? Can can we go after assets of those who have assets?
Yeah, they don't have any assets. The ones who have health insurance, of course, their health insurance, they make the claim and they pay. So if they have assets, they may have health insurance, that pays first. But for the most part, the clientele in this scenario, he took the one asset they had when he arrested him, the bicycle, with the baggie of meth in the backpack, and that's it. That's all they got.
If they had a house, you could seize it.
Absolutely, they would be responsible for their own costs.
And we do look at that.
Well, you couldn't seize it. You'd have to, just like any other business.
You go after it from a collection standpoint.
Yeah, but you can't seize it.
No, not unless they're using their house to deal drugs, in which case we'll seize that.
That's a different subject.
Different scenario.
Different day.
Or their bicycle, or their dog, or...
But, like I read, I think it was Mount Vernon talking about, somebody's got to go to the whatever, and they need time to tell Mount Vernon to go to all this stuff. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so that Mount Vernon scenario was really intended to provide them an opportunity to obtain that PR. I don't think it's workable. I just think it's too complicated. To me, you're in, you're out, and you have to remember, even if you don't like it, that the jail has a constitutional obligation to provide for these people because the state or the city or the county has taken away their ability to provide for themselves. They can't seek care. They're in a box. So therefore they get care provided for them. And so you cannot back down on that. It's just a must-do type thing. So we're also not going to get into the agreement anything about level of care other than you do what you have to do. That's something that we have to reserve to the judgment of those who are actually tending to those in custody.
So, Aaron, is there an average cost that we were looking at that would equate to a bed rate that might cover that bumpy road, whatever it is? And is there a number in mind if they went that way?
Well, you can see the county proposal suggested a booking fee as opposed to a bed rate, which I'm not excited about because it doesn't seem to me that would adequately capture the risk. In other words, we drop somebody off for one day, the booking fee would be the same for one day or 364 days, which is kind of the maximum. So, there is. I don't know that. I'm expecting that we'll have that conversation tomorrow. And I think any scenario before I would bring it back to you, we would look backwards 2, 3, 4, 5 years and kind of cost out how that might have looked. So you'll see that. But yeah, the county was talking about a booking fee, and the city of Burlington was, I think, looking more at a bed rate. So it just depends on how you want to allocate that cost.
Now, there's absolutely no reason why the final proposal has to look anything like the existing proposals. So it doesn't matter if you put in a proposal or not.
No.
It doesn't mean that any of it's going to come true.
No, and in fact, there may be no change.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not a majority vote scenario. It's all 5 must be in agreement to modify the agreement.
How do malpractice usually play? How does that usually play into this? Like if someone received treatment and later down the line didn't work out or something, like for lawsuits, could they sue?
Oh, sure, yeah. So, I mean, the question that there's kind of 2 different levels there. One is if the person was experiencing some symptoms and the jail's response was to take him to the hospital, then I would expect that litigation would be between the inmate and the provider. Now, if the issue is that there was symptomology or reports and the jail didn't respond appropriately or delayed their response and then ultimately got them there, then the jail is going to have an issue as well. So it just kind of, the facts would have to play out to see. But jails are sued very frequently for all sorts of things, and that's a tough question for them, because they're put on the front lines of medical screening, essentially. And, inmates don't like to be in jail, and so it's kind of fun to maybe take an ambulance ride and see a pretty nurse or whatever.
Escape.
And just be out for the day. And there's no cost to them. So it's it could be an activity. It's like an outing, you know?
Well, we have right now, and you're right, I want to have some kind of motive to get everybody to solve
Aligned.
a problem, because we have right now, before it's sentenced, the city's on the hook. And you can be sued or something's not done right, and we're a party of that. You know.
Yeah, but a lot of times your solutions are worse than the problem, so that's where you get all these people involved. Only God knows where it's going.
What about the case we recently settled with the county? Are any of these options going to satisfy the city's want for kind of the neglect that man suffered? I suppose
that should be brought up the same time this is. We should solve that or get that solved. You know what we're talking about.
Yeah, so we have a conceptual,
we're going to go back to all the
theoretical settlement, but we haven't actually put pen to paper on that particular matter that's been dangling for so many years. That's a jail operational issue, and at the end of the day, we have all agreed that is the sole province of the sheriff's office.
Yeah, but we're the one on the hook.
So, which is why we didn't pay the bill. Because we think if it's the sole province of another actor and they failed to live up to their obligations, then it shouldn't be our responsibility. But in terms of, really all we can do is say, gee, Sheriff, don't you think you ought to look at your SOPs and consider this? But at the end of the day, we didn't reserve any right to manage in any way the jail. What we can talk about are the finances and those sorts of things, but in terms of the daily operations and the decisions about how you deal with specific scenarios, it's entirely a county function.
But if you go all in, then you become kind of responsible for the way it's being operated. Because everybody's...
the reality is finances touch almost everything, but our role isn't to to approve policy. And really what we discussed in this formation of this whole process is the Finance Committee actually has delegated final action authority on certain economic questions. And for policy and operating procedures, the sheriff agreed that he would continue to use the chiefs as a sounding board to kind of run ideas through, but that they didn't actually retain any actual review. So yeah, it's a really long way of saying we can bring it up, but it's not up to us.
Yeah, I understand that. We don't micromanage the jail, but...
So any other guiding principles or anything like that?
But it might cost you money.
All right, thank you.
Good luck.
Never thought I'd be so involved in the jail.
So we will go to committee reports. Do you want to speak on those, or when I get to you on the committee reports? We'll start with Sergeant Harris.
Hello. So some of you may have gotten word or not. Yesterday we served a search warrant in the 100 block of Warner Street. The last 3 weeks or so we've been buying heroin out of there, that area, and then over at Food Pavilion. So we executed the search warrant yesterday, arrested one. We've got probable cause to arrest another, and didn't find a whole lot in the house, but they are now evicted. We're working with the property owner, so hopefully that problem will be resolved. So other than that, I have nothing else really new to add for you.
Thank you. Chief Olson.
Nothing to report.
John.
Oh, just a reminder that next Wednesday we're having a joint Planning Commission City Council work session to talk about the 2015 comprehensive plan docket and how that fits in with our previous UGA modification application to the county. And just to explain to both the council and the Planning Commission what is in store as far as GMA planning for 2015 and into 16. And that'll be the lead up to the council setting the 2015 docket, which I'll ask for at a city council meeting after the work session, but we'll have the bulk of the conversation at the work session on Wednesday. That's it.
Is that at 10 in the morning?
That's a separate meeting. The work session is the 6:30 public meeting. It's a joint. I'm sorry, 7 o'clock public meeting in the fire safety room. The 10 o'clock meeting on Monday is the City Council Subcommittee on Planning to talk about the UGA modification application.
When was it Teresa called, said it was the Planning Commission and the City Council?
No, it's a planning committee.
It's a planning committee.
Planning Committee.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, us, the council.
But it's last year's planning committee. This one I gave
Not
you.
on the current
Yeah,
sheet
no, whoever she called up last year. You're expected to be there.
Both meetings are related, but the 10 o'clock one on Monday is just the subcommittee.
And then Monday night we're having...
Wednesday night is the work session.
Wednesday night. Why couldn't you have one at 6 and one at 7 instead of, it's tough for getting there in the daytime a lot of times.
Well, those were scheduled independently. I mean, that's the answer. Is one's a work session. The other one, Teresa just scheduled looking for available time slots. So if that time slot doesn't work, we could reschedule it.
And we could do 6 o'clock.
But it makes way more sense to do it an hour before the other meeting, or even at 5, whatever. But
Won't take more than
a lot of times it's no big deal to me. But a lot of people work or whatever. So
we're currently scheduled for a meeting on Monday. Do the folks who are coming to that meeting have a conflict? Do you want to reschedule it, or do you want to keep it the way it is?
I don't as of now, but I never know.
Yeah, but that's also true Wednesday at 5 or 6, right?
Well, that could be, but more than likely, yeah. Even that 5 or 5:30 or 6 on Wednesday would be more convenient than 10 on Monday. But
okay,
I could use.
But that would make more sense whatever committee do it an hour or so before a regular city council meeting. Corralling everybody up at 10 in the morning on any day.
Yeah, that's what our communities always do.
But who's the third council member?
I got a call to go.
you.
So 6 is fine with you guys? Okay,
6
so
on
it'll be
Wednesday?
6
So
Wednesday
change
night.
that 6 o'clock Wednesday. Thank you.
That frees up Monday.
Well, thank you.
It's the day after the Super Bowl. So anyway.
Yeah.
Mark.
Recovery day.
We're busy with our 2 design projects and moving forward on that basis. I just wanted to give you a heads up at the March council work session. We're going to be bringing forward a situation that I've discussed a couple of times. We have a number of stormwater facilities in the city that are supposed to be maintained by homeowners associations where we have inactive associations, and we're going to need some direction from council on what to do on some of those situations. We'll bring that to you with the information you'll need to consider that. Thank you.
How would that work if you, let's say they don't do it, we go do it, or someone does it, and then you charge the homeowner association? Do they spread that out on a lien to all the properties?
Well, that's what we're going to bring to you, because it depends on which pond, which homeowners association, which scenario, and what year.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's unfortunately not a single answer, and that's one of the reasons why it's been something Mark's brought up several times over the past several years, and we just haven't really advanced it. So we're going to have to bring you a couple different scenarios so you can see what the issues are, as well as I think we're going to have a range of options for how we tackle the enforcement, and get your sense on those too.
Okay.
What's going on with Green Street?
Well, they're installing the PUD water line right now. They'll probably finish that within the next 2 weeks, and they'll temporarily pave the asphalt, and they'll participate in the final paving after we do the sewer work this summer. So that's basically what's happening there.
Okay, Aaron?
We got 2 late materials items for you on your desk. They're the MOUs. There's 2 of them. They're actually stapled together. The first one is regarding our offender work program supervisor, Luigi. Luigi's requested that he move to part-time status effective April 1st. It's really nothing to do with the job, but Luigi has fallen in love.
Good for him.
He's looking for a little more time. So
He doesn't listen to me.
I met with the union and discussed that. Of course, the timing and the irony of the timing was not lost on anybody, having gone through the lengthy process of putting that position into the bargaining unit this month to now change its status such that it wouldn't really have been a bargaining unit position. A little frustrating, but the solution that we came up with was to add a second offender work program position to our job classification system, a part-time hourly position. So we would have both a full-time and a part-time classification. He would simply move to the part-time classification. He would no longer be eligible for any city benefits. I presume he would maintain his PERS eligibility due to his prior PERS time, but Patsy worries about that and takes care of that worry. And then we preserve any banked capacity he has in his paid leave account. So he wouldn't accrue anymore, but he wouldn't lose what he has. And point of fact, he doesn't let the moss grow on his rock in that scenario. So we're interested in accommodating him. It will take some adjusting to address maintaining our offender work program at a 1 FTE equivalent, so we don't pay booking fees through the jail. What we're anticipating is that Luigi would still engage in direct supervision 3 days a week. He would still do all the screening and tasking, but on the other 2 days a week, we would have offenders who would actually show up, check in, and do their work, with Jeff at the cemetery or with somebody at the park or at the garbage department or wherever they could do something that would be useful and could be under somebody's oversight. So we would have a combination of public works workers who could help somebody be tasked for a day and maintain that FTE equivalent. And then the last piece of this puzzle, which you'll see on another day, is I'll be requesting a modification to our court clerk's position to move it from a part-time to a full-time status in similar time frame. We're still working out the details of how that would look. So I just let you know that that's economically it becomes about a wash for us, and it solves a problem that we have in that department that we created as part of the economic downturn, and this is kind of an opportunity to get that put back where it needs to be. So that's the first MOU. The second MOU is with regard to take-home vehicles. The folks in our AFSCME unit don't have take-home vehicles. However, we the city, actually brought both these issues to the table. Our request was to provide Nathan Salsino with a take-home truck. Of course, all of you know Nathan. He lives in town. He's a first response on emergent issues, but also on a lot of honeydews for a lot of people all around town. And it just occurred to the mayor and I, in thinking through, that it's kind of a nuisance to go warm up your POV, get it all defrosted, drive to the shop, fire up your city truck, get it all defrosted to go do something that was only a 15 or 20 minute task. So if he had a rig from home, he could respond directly. It would cut down his overall time and just be more convenient for Nathan. So I talked to the union. They really the only concern they had was that they didn't want it to be targeted to just an individual. They kind of wanted to think about that on a broader scale. So the way I drafted this makes it clear that you don't have to take a take-home vehicle. Our AFSCME folks, with the exception of those in the wastewater treatment plant, are not on call, married to a pager, prohibited from drinking off duty, those sorts of things. So whether you answer the call is your decision, whether you respond or not is your decision. So you don't have to take one home if we offer you one. We're not going to pay you for taking one home. That's not going to happen. And then item 3 was really the issue of trying to put some sort of criteria around it. And what it says is that take-home vehicles are provided at the discretion of management, but we would utilize the following factors. One, the employee's likelihood of after-hours call-outs, so that's what position are they in. Two, where the employee resides, that's respecting the council's past practice of not sending take-home cars outside of really the city, and now more recently with the PD, the school district. The availability of a vehicle to assign for take-home use, and the final one is, I called it the employee's interest in a take-home vehicle, availability for call-outs. What I'm really looking at there is, will you come if we call? Because the last thing we want to do is give you a vehicle and find that you're the guy who doesn't keep your phone plugged in from Friday at 4 till Monday at 6. So they've agreed and signed off on that. We're looking for your approval tonight for both of these. We think that they'll both be positive for our operations.
Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize you to sign the memorandum of agreement between the City of Sedro-Woolley and AFSCME dated January 26, 2015, reference Offender Work Program Supervisor.
Second. Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Wagner, a second by Councilmember Sandstrom, to approve the memorandum of agreement between City of Sedro-Woolley and AFSCME Local 176-SW dated January 26, 2015 regarding the Offender Work Supervisor. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, passes. Okay, that one's done.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement, City of Sedro-Woolley, AFSCME Local 176, Sedro-Woolley, January 26, 2015, regarding take-home vehicles.
Second.
Does that be Jermaine? Okay, we had a motion by Councilmember Galbraith, second by Councilmember Cornegie, to approve the memorandum of agreement between the City of Sedro-Woolley and AFSCME Local 176-SW, January 26, 2015, regarding take-home vehicles. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, passes. Great.
They also completed the research you asked me to do on the additional $100 car tab tax for antique vehicles and classic vehicles, especially Packards. Okay, I'm just checking to see, Tony. I want to make sure you were present.
I will make sure he's awake.
All right. A quick couple updates. Dike District 12 and their plan to flood Sedro-Woolley. We had a lengthy meeting yesterday. It's currently scheduled for a hearing or trial next week. All of the parties, except for the county, I think, have agreed to continue it. There's just some uncertainty on the facts underlying the remand item C, which was whether the county complied with the National Marine Fisheries Service biological opinion on listed species. And the problem is, as it currently stands, at least from our perspective, we don't think the hearing examiner could possibly rule in favor of the project. And from the project proponent's perspective, they agree. The county disagrees. They think that they've done everything they need to do, and it should be no problem. And I'd say that's a problem because there's so much uncertainty that it's just going to cause the process to not work well. I mean, we literally are waiting for a letter that would change a critical piece of evidence that we haven't yet seen sometime between now and the first day of the trial. That would also possibly trigger a need for different witnesses and everything else. So it's a complication that just makes everything not work very well. And the examiner in his prior scheduling order had indicated, well, we're going to proceed, and if this issue is unresolvable at the time, we'll just kind of bifurcate that and deal with it later. I've got some real concerns about that from the public participation standpoint, and that people get all mobilized, show up on the 6th, 4th, 5th, and 6th, they provide their testimony, and then a month later they come back and have another opportunity to testify on just remand item C, and how everything gets tied together it just seems cumbersome and complicated. So Dike 12 has asked for a continuance. The city of Burlington joined them in their request. The city of Sedro-Woolley didn't object. The county did object. They said, let's go. The hearing examiner said, great. County says, let's go, let's go. But that was premised on this meeting yesterday where the county was revealing the new information from National Marine Fisheries Service. And the county told us in our meeting that, they thought they were really being very helpful and kind of shedding some light on this and everybody'd be happy, and it didn't quite work that way. The Dike folks felt like they were not prepared to go to trial, and the City of Burlington folks weren't ready to go, and our lawyer was looking at them going, well, I don't even know how I could prepare for a case when you're telling me that this evidence is in the record, but I'm going to get new evidence that says that this evidence wasn't accurate, but I haven't even seen it yet, and the trial's next week. So it's just problematic. So that's a really long way of saying we're currently scheduled for a trial next week in front of the hearing examiner beginning on the 4th and running through Friday the 6th. We're hoping he delays it so all of the parties can feel like they're prepared to participate, and we'll just have to let you know.
I'm surprised we didn't hear today.
We just don't know yet.
What's he going to wait till a Friday night or afternoon?
Well, it looked to me like the renewed motion got filed today, so I would expect we would hear probably tomorrow, given the late date. And the examiner may say, hey, we're going to proceed on remand items A and B, and we'll do C later. That would certainly be within his purview.
He's got that oil train one to worry about.
So the other one is just an update on the Sedro-Woolley Police Department repeater project. We've got our bid spec pretty close to being done. I'm going to get David Lee kind of coordinated with Mike Voss to put what Mike has written in words into what an engineer could draw, so it's more biddable and easier to inspect. And then we bumped into another hurdle, which is the dispatch center wants to have an agreement that will address Mike Voss's participation in our project management and setup and all that. I don't want to go to bid till I know what the scope of that agreement is. I did, however, order the generator this week, so we're now another $29,000 into the project. We piggybacked following your last council meeting on the dispatch center's bid process and have a 40 kW generator with automatic transfer switch from Kohler coming. So that was a good price, and that'll be delivered in, I think, 8 to 10 weeks. It's a diesel generator, so it provides us with about 70 hours of runtime. And I know we had a lot of discussion about whether we could just have some batteries or a plug-in generator or something of that nature. The problem with this particular operation is it will be the primary radio communications for the police department, and at the point when our power goes out, and there's also emergency issues, is about the worst possible time for us to try to rustle up some sort of equipment to drive up and hook up. So imagining the worst case scenario, we really need to have the capacity to run our radio without power. And that's where that came from. And the reason for the sizing, because you're thinking, you got to be kidding me, it's a radio repeater. Well, it's sized to accommodate the air conditioners in the facility, in our shelter. So it's a power failure, during summer months, because our equipment, if it overheats, will fail. And so the cost of the actual computer equipment in the shelter is quite a bit higher than the generator. So there's that.
Open the door.
And then I guess the last thing I've got is much like I did last year, the mayor has tasked me out to the dispatch center to do some collective bargaining work for them. So over the next 3 or 4 months, we've committed to about 100 hours of collective bargaining. So I'll be slightly less available, helping them with their contract. And the dispatch center is paying the city for my time. So that's all I've got.
Betsy.
Brett. Nothing.
Saturday, Denny Ingberg Memorial Spaghetti Dinner Auction and Dance at the Eagles, starting at 5 o'clock. Money goes into community things for the Denny Ingberg Fund to buy sports equipment for kids at the high school that can't afford. Variety of community things. So, got nothing going Saturday? Stop down.
I hate to go to Eagles. Keith?
Yeah, in our packets, there's a email to Mike from a Jennifer Milton about sewer water and her bill, and I was wondering, did you answer this, Mike?
Yep.
And does she know that we, at least I feel like, we kind of agree with her on this point, and we're trying to work forward?
Yeah, and then I told her we're working on a sewer consumption, or, based on consumption, too. She liked that.
Okay.
And Mark is contacting Katie Isaacson right now with the idea of getting that. In fact, we signed the agreement to get her in place. So the question's defining the scope of her participation with us this year, which is both a rate study and also coming to the council and figuring out different ways of allocating the cost for the system. So we're looking at a time horizon of doing that really before summer's out, so you'll have been able to have the debate and discussion and determine if you want to move forward. So if you are moving forward, we could have final implementation ordinances to you. I'm hopeful that would happen before September.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Brenda? Jermaine?
Go Hawks.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, I guess we need a motion to adjourn. Thank you for coming.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor stand. We're done. Thank you.
Okay, so what's this workshop packet all about?
I know what I'm going to say.
We haven't had them. Really now?
Okay.
So, is it the new plan or the old plan?
We didn't drink our water tonight.
So I'm not meeting Monday at 6.
Yes, I did. There.
No, I'm not. We're not meeting Monday at 6.
Denny Ingberg Memorial. I don't know if you know who Denny Ingberg was.
Okay, got it.
He was kind of volunteered, 4 or 5 years ago, and this fundraiser
So that'd be
goes
me?
to sponsor kids in athletics at the high school that can't afford equipment.
For $5, you can get them at the door.
That's what I thought I heard too. I just don't want to miss it.
Show up, it's 5 o'clock.
Big auction after the dinner.
At 5 o'clock, they're having a spaghetti dinner, and if you want to get involved with that, then there's a live and silent auction that starts at 7, and then the Troy Fair Band is playing music from 9 to midnight.
There's raffle items.
Yep, at the high school, the schools around the district for
Youth football. They do all kinds of kids stuff where kids don't have to participate.
Yes, that's the key. That's
bike race,
right.
buy clothing
I
for
got to help
sports.
Richard Sherman. He'll be all right.
Yeah, very
Those are
generous
trying
fund.
to hurt him. Of course. They're going to try to hurt Wilson too. Yep. Who's their equivalent?